Hi, my name is Lindsay Horvath. I am the mayor of the city of West Hollywood, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's event. It is part of our One City, One Pride series of events celebrating Pride here in West Hollywood. And this series of events began on May 22nd, Harvey Milk Day, and unfortunately ends today with this event, but we know we're going out with a bang. This series of events helps us celebrate Pride in West Hollywood, but we know Pride carries on each and every day of every year here in the city and in all of us. And for my part, I'm really excited about today's event, mostly because there's so many stories to tell about Circus of Books. It's played such an integral role in our community. We know small businesses are critical to our city, and in this case, this small business helped an entire family have a livelihood and be able to get by. And we also know that this store was a place for people to find acceptance, to find community, maybe even to find love. Okay, maybe just to have a good time. But we know it played an integral role in our community, and these are stories that we must continue to share. That's why I'm so happy there's a Netflix documentary, which you must check out. And I'm so glad that we're having today's discussion so we're able to keep telling these stories. I know so many stories about Circus of Books will continue to live on in our community through each and every one of you. And I thank you for being part of today's event. Happy Pride.
Hi, everyone. Are we live? Oh, okay. So, hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. And my name is Buck Angel, and I'm super excited to really be doing interviews with two or three of the most awesome people I know. Karen and Barry Mason, who owned Circus of Books forever, and Rachel Mason, who is their daughter and the director of the Circus of Books documentary that is on Netflix. So I'm going to be doing a talk and asking questions and interviewing them. And if anyone has questions that they want me to ask, please put them in the comment section and we can ask them. So I'm going to start off by just having Karen and Barry introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their shop.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Karen.
And I'm Barry.
Okay. And the whole story is told in the documentary because I never really talked about it very much.
Yeah. So can you just tell us a little bit about when you first got the shop and how you got the shop? I'm very interested in knowing like the beginning of the story of when you got the shop.
Well, it happened in 1982. But prior to that, I used to deliver magazines to that store. And they were, this first one was Hustler, and then it became Blue Boy and Honcho and Mandate.
No, we delivered 3 magazines to that store. Hustler, Blue Boy, Chic, and Blue Boy. Okay,
so,
yeah.
So anyway, it sold lots of magazines, and the customers would actually come out to my truck and help me unload the magazines into the store. It was just amazing how fast they would sell. Wow. So one day we didn't get his check. We used to give him a 30-day credit, and he's supposed to pay every 30 days. And he didn't, and it went on for a few weeks with no payment. And finally I met his manager, who lived up the same street we lived on. And I asked him, what's happening? And he told me that the owner had a cocaine problem, and that he was just spending all his money on cocaine, and that he didn't pay anybody. And for some reason I got the idea, what about the rent? And he said, oh, he's not paying the landlord either. So I found out who the landlord was, called him, and they said, oh yes, he's in eviction. He'd be out in probably a month or two. And he just isn't paying. And nobody knew much about why not. He just wasn't. And so the next day I got an idea that why don't I offer her, because I knew the store was so good only from my deliveries. I really did not know what was going on in the store because I would deliver it just to the front counter with the help of the customers. And so anyway, I got the idea to offer them half the rent, which the manager had told me was $1,400. So I said, if I
He talked to the landlord, and he offered the landlord half rent during the period of the eviction, if when the guy was evicted, they would rent the store to Barry. And on a handshake, the landlord
gave me a letter. Karen forgets, but they wrote me a letter.
Yeah, we disagree.
That guaranteed that I would get the store as long as I paid half the rent.
Yeah.
And so that went on for about 2 weeks. No, 2 months. No, we only paid twice.
So we paid more.
Yeah, so we paid $1,400. And one morning she called and said, okay, she's outside the store with the sheriff. They're locking up the store. And if I want, I can come and get it right now. So I hopped in my car, drove down, and got the keys, opened the store, called the manager, because I didn't know who the workers were or anything. And so I told the manager, by then, between then and anyway, we had already talked to the manager that he could manage the store because I knew nothing about running the store. And if he wants to keep working, he could work for me. And he was pleased with that idea, and he knew all the other employees, and he knew all the vendors, most of them. I knew some by that time, but he knew all of them. And so we started remodeling the store, and within a month we reopened it, all fully stocked. All the vendors were very pleased to not lose the business since the store was closed. And so we got credit for everything. And the very first day, the store did $1,000, and people were waiting to get back in. And it just went more up from there. But it was just an amazing store. Most of the people were gay that worked there. I had no problem with that, not even the slightest. I didn't care. And my wife, she didn't care. As long as they knew the business, they knew how it worked. We just had to actually learn from them how the business worked.
They really taught us.
And we became friendly with them. It was a very nice atmosphere, and the customers were all very friendly, pleasant. I mean, it was a good business. And
that is so beautiful. I mean, I really think on some level it was you were supposed to take that shop over. I know, you know me, I'm all about the universe, but I really think on some level, like God looked down on you and said, this is for you guys, because I mean, what you did is create such an iconic shop in West Hollywood that is so famous all across the world. Everybody knows your store. Now, I know how humble you two are, so I'm going to say this because I know you won't, but you are heroes in our community, because what you just said to me, Barry and Karen, you hired gay people. You even hired transsexual people. You hired people that don't necessarily get jobs or have a harder time, especially in the 80s. So that's a hero to our gay community. You are heroes for us.
Well, they know how to run the business. We didn't know anything.
Yeah, but there's people who won't hire gay people. You know that. I don't need to tell you, just because they're gay, or even trans people.
Since we've had the business, I became aware of that. And up till then, I really didn't hear much one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, when you're running a small business, you really don't have time to think about the bigger universe. You have to think about how the day-to-day operate. It's very hard to run a small business, and I feel so badly for the people who are doing it during this. This is awful.
Yeah, for sure. People are having a difficult time. But that said, I think maybe because you're not in our community, you could look at it more as a business. And that's probably why on some level it did become so successful, because you just looked at it as a business, where possibly if a gay person owned it, a lot of different things could have been happening on that level. But that said, I do think because you're outside of the community, just looking at it straight like a business, and you treated it like a business, but that said, what either of you can answer this, but what did you find to be the hardest part of running this shop? Was there something that was the hardest part, or was there something?
Well, I think that during the AIDS crisis, when our young employees started getting sick, that was awful.
Yeah.
Just awful. And that just should never have happened.
Yeah.
And when I look at what was hard, that was just terrible. The rest of it was kind of all business. You know, there's good employees and bad employees. people are just wonderful, and a lot of our employees, you know, really wanted to be writers or actors or musicians or something. So we ran a place where they could audition or travel or do whatever, and then they could come back to a regular job. But during the AIDS crisis, you know, they were just so sick, some of our people. And that was the worst. That was the hardest thing, I think.
Yeah, that's because you're such a compassionate person and you would understand that. So I want to talk to Rachel. Rachel. So actually, Rachel, I want to lead this into, because that's one of the part of the movie. Rachel Mason now, she's the director of the film and the daughter of Karen and Barry. That said, Rachel, as you know, that's one of the parts of your film that always makes me break down and cry when we talk about the AIDS. Like, I'm going to cry now. But when your dad even says, you know, when Barry says, like, I don't understand why somebody would leave their child. And so it's a very profound statement that your father makes. And so really, I think that to me is one of the pieces that really stick, so that really resonate and stick with me really deeply. So yeah.
Well, you know, I was thinking about something recently, because I guess I've had so many interviews that I've had to think of new angles on things. But it's been, you know, when you think about how people die during the coronavirus right now, and it's still an unknown, terrible thing, and how it's spread, we finally figured out. But in the first few weeks, nobody totally knew. It reminded me of what they were saying when the, you know, first months or years of the AIDS crisis happened, but what the gay population had to endure on top of just being sick and dealing with a horrible, terrible sickness was they were also shamed for it by, you know, society. And I've read articles where I can't even believe the headlines, where they would say things, you know, like, this is a homosexual plague and they brought it on themselves, and you know, these people are sinners, and of course, you know, this is God's punishment. And I mean, it was so unbelievable, the language in mainstream culture. So if you could imagine the coronavirus with a layer of homophobia attached to it, which would just condemn people for even being sick, I think it was such an unbelievable amount of cruelty directed at a population. So I didn't have a good perspective on it because I was just a kid. But, you know, in a way, we're like 3 generations here, because Buck, a lot of the people who got sick were your actual friends, right? And you knew people, you cared for them, and you probably lost a lot of them, right?
Yeah, it's why I am so grateful for that part of the film and what your parents say about that, because I did lose all my friends. And, you know, I was going to your shop before I knew you, all of you, I was going to that shop. And, you know, it did save on some level, it really helped you. That shop helped people really understand themselves. We didn't have that. I'm 58 years old. We didn't have a lot of what we have today on the internet. You know, the bookstore was pre-internet. And so people forget, a lot of the younger generation forget that even having AIDS, you didn't have a space to go. People did not want to talk to you, let alone hire you for jobs or any of those things. And it's such a part of our past, the gay past, gay man past, that we don't really talk about it enough, as far as I'm concerned. So that being in the film is such a powerful space that we don't forget. You know, we don't forget how people treated their kids. So I really love what your parents said and how you really made that a very big point in the film. So Rachel, growing up and having that shop around you, how did what your parents told you not to talk about it?
Well, you know what's so funny, Mom? I was just telling you this, that I got an email since the store, or you know, since the movie came out, from a teacher of mine in elementary school who remembered us. She said, you were a talkative kid. And I remember the school had this policy where they had to get information about all the parents. It was sort of like an early social work kind of thing, you know, in case they needed to investigate anything. And she said, so we had to really ask kids what their parents did. And she said that you answered it in this very weird way. It seemed like you were given a script. And she said, you know, you said, well, we own a bookstore. And then I said, oh, well, which one? And she said, you just stared straight ahead and repeated it. Well, they own a bookstore. And she thought that was really, you know, she never thought anything of it, except she said when she was watching the movie, she thought back and said, wow, I remember it clear as day. You refused to say the name. See, I'm a good mafia. What's it? But well, so I don't know. It makes me think in a way like it's such a benign secret now that I think of it. In
Now,
days, what?
now.
Well, yeah, now. But I think about kids with like really huge, terrible secrets that they might actually, maybe their parent is in a situation where they could be deported, or maybe they're, involved in like serious criminal activity, which I suppose Circus of Books was connected to something that the government was considering criminal activity. So
it was not criminal.
Okay, so why did you want me to insist upon that?
I didn't want people judging us by what we sold in the bookstore. That was the issue for me.
Right on.
People would say adult material. Well, somehow everybody seems to have an opinion about adult material. I don't really care what anybody thinks about adult material, and I don't want to know. I just don't want to know. Like people would say, I don't have a problem with that. I suppose if you say you're gay, or maybe, I don't know, you say you're Republican, I don't know. When people say I don't have a problem with that, to me it makes me feel judged. And I don't want to hear that. I just don't want to hear it. So if you don't open the door to that question, they can't say that.
That's a great point.
That's always what I heard. Oh, I don't have a problem with adult material.
Which means that they actually did.
Maybe I did. I just didn't want to be judged by it.
Yeah, right.
I was selling it, but I didn't want to be considered as, as a purveyor of adult material, and that was my whole being, because I'm not that. I don't care. We also sold a lot of other stuff too.
Right. Do you remember what some of your biggest selling merchandise was in that shop? Was it magazines, or was it like other kinds of things?
That store was really pretty amazing because it had a wonderful selection of magazines, and magazines are a very low profit item. So you have to sell a lot of magazines to make the money you make, say, on one adult magazine at that time. But because we were subsidized by adult material, we could carry every magazine in the world, really, and we did. But we also carried unusual books, and we carried regular books. We opened a literary bookstore down the street because we didn't have enough room for all the books that people, we could order books from regular, like from Random House.
Yeah, we ordered from the publishers directly.
Yeah, from Penguin. We sold all the books.
To be direct accounts.
But we didn't have enough space to be a regular bookstore, so we opened a store and called it the Annex Bookstore. And it was a block down the street. But people didn't, even when they asked for a book and we said, well, it's at the Annex, they didn't walk the block to get it.
Things never change.
Yeah.
That's real. But I guess my next question for you was, I think deciding to close the shop, which I think I want to know more about that. Was it a difficult decision for you? Was it, or how and why did you choose to do that? Was it just the time?
Well, we could see when the internet took off. Adult material, by the way, was one of the first things to go on the internet. So we were affected by the internet before other people were. But our store was always profitable, even until we closed it. It was profitable. I could have sold it. And for a while, I talked to people who were in this business who wanted to take it over. But I wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel that anybody could do as good a job as we did with it. And I saw our sales declining, and I just didn't feel right selling it. So it was easier to close it. And then in the end, we rented it to somebody who is trying to make it a much more upscale adult shop. And more power to them. I really hope they do well there.
Yeah, that's Shishi LaRue.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, Shishi LaRue. I think they're doing amazing. I'm so happy that they took it over because West Hollywood is such an iconic gay space anyway, all across the world. Everybody knows what West Hollywood is, and Circus of Books is really a plant in that space. And so I would have been just really honestly, I think so many people, I remember when it was closing, and before I even met all of you, people were freaking out that it was closing because it has been there for so long. It's just been a stable part of the gay population there. And so really the fact that Shishi LaRue stepped up and they actually took the shop over really says a lot, first off, about them, and they care about the history. Your shop is a history of us and our needs and what we need. And, having to hide out to read magazines, we actually really had to do these kinds of things. You give us a safe space to look at, our own sexuality.
but now nobody needs to go there to read magazines.
No, you're right. They don't. But I think it's more about the iconic space. And so, Rachel, you and I have actually visited the shop together, right? How do you feel about that shop? I mean, how does it make you feel going in there? Or are you happy that it's still there? And
well, I think it actually is interesting because it points to what is the more healthy part of the business, which I remember when I was following my mom at the ANME convention, and you look at the different people innovating in this field, and it's like things that are more like products that I guess is the actual videos, that's all streaming, right? That's like in the realm of streaming content, so nobody's purchasing that. But what people are purchasing still are toys that are really like cutting edge, innovative things that are related to merchandise that people want to show up, and they still need salespeople. So I was so amazed also by the owner, Rob Novinger, has a particular talent at transforming an interior design. I actually was stunned when I first stepped in there. He had
the store is beautiful, just beautiful.
Wow. I mean, it hadn't been painted in 30 years.
It was painted once.
Because your parents are smart. They're like, who knew? No one's looking at the paint. They're just coming in straight.
Did anyone ever say anything about it needing to be painted?
And you guys,
it did happen. When we were painting it, we would close off a section. And we had big ladders, just A-frame ladders, but very tall ones. And people would push the tape away and walk right under the ladder with the guys painting to get to where the section they wanted. Come back under it. And know that this, they probably didn't even realize there was construction going on. They were so interested in what they wanted.
You couldn't actually paint is the key.
Well, because like I said, and I'm going to keep saying, it was like the shop that everybody went to, and you knew you could get the things that you can possibly, I mean, that was pre-internet. I lived in the life of pre-internet. It was a whole other space. And so it does make me sad that your shop had to close, but at least, they brought it back enough.
I really hope they succeed. I mean,
they will.
Made it beautiful, just beautiful.
Yeah.
I walk in there and don't even recognize it.
Well, here's a question I have, because, me and Buck were listening to a podcast the other day. It was sort of about the current people in the industry. The butterfly effect was the name of it. And, it was, did you guys hear it? I sent it to you.
We haven't heard it yet.
Oh, anyway. Okay. But, I was sort of wondering about that, because maybe it's a question that I'll ask both of you, Buck and Mom and Dad, but I'm curious to know what you think of how, if there's either a healthy part of the industry or a way to stay in this industry. What is it? How do you do it? What do you have to be, what is the new smart people? What are they doing?
I think you need to talk to other people, not us. Maybe you can talk to Buck.
Yeah, the
new smart people. You can talk to.
Well, that's why your parents basically shut the shop, because they couldn't compete with online. I mean, you sold tons of movies, didn't you? Had your own. You had your own production company, Video 10, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm asking, because Buck, maybe this is something you can. What do you think people who are in the industry now? who are good at it? What is their secret to success? Because I'm just curious about that.
So the secret to success of staying within the adult industry today is having an online presence. I've been lucky enough to create an online presence, and there's many platforms you can use. Nobody buys DVD. Nobody buys. I mean, I'm so old. I made VHS. Karen and Barry, did you sell VHS?
Yeah, we sold the first one.
We sold Beta also.
Beta.
Oh my God, that's before me. But that said, I mean, those were the days when you could make so much money because that was the only way you could get film. But today, and then eventually when it started to change from, you know, DVD and VHS into digital, people just started stealing all of our content and ripping it off and putting it on the internet. And it was the Wild West, and there was no way you could stop people from taking that. So basically what you needed to do was create a brand, which I did, and create a brand and go and just work through that. Other than that, there's not a lot of money making adult films anymore as there was when we were doing it.
As you tell in the movie, what happened to us is we had a federal prosecution in the 90s. And so when we were thinking about going online, we went to John Weston, who's interviewed in the movie, and we said, we are going to add online to our store. Is there anything that we need to know about it? And he said, you better not do that. He said, the federal government already knows about you. And if they decide to prosecute somebody, they could come after you again. And we were doing well enough without online. So we did an online store, but it could only sell like regular books and regular magazines.
That's right.
And anybody who ordered anything, we both had to look at the order and decide, you know, if it was okay to ship this and how adult was this book and would there be a problem. And we would review orders to the extent that we were just afraid to ship anywhere.
Yeah, we actually had an internet online store. Back in when the internet just started.
We spent a lot of money. We had a shopping cart.
Wow.
But because of what we were warned about, to go through one federal prosecution in a lifetime is more than enough.
And it's so ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. As you know in the film, thank God that's in the film. It's so important. Most of the people out of adult have no idea what we have to deal with obscenity laws and all of these things that are so insane. And what happened to you is so insane. That's entrapment as far as I'm concerned. They don't do that with any other businesses, only pornography. And people don't know that.
We learned a lot of stuff like entrapment doesn't apply if that's the business you're actually in. So, because you're supposed to know that. Entrapment would be, let's say I was working at a 7-Eleven and shipped an adult.
Yeah, right.
I could say, well, I didn't know that.
Right.
And they'd have a hard time proving you knew it. But if you're in the adult business and you ship an adult tape, you know you're not supposed to do it. And so it's not legally entrapment.
Sure.
But laws about adult material vary all over the country.
That's right.
Just like the way COVID-19 now, how
that's so true. But you know, people don't know. I mean, other than the movie, people don't know what you had to go through. That what you just said, a federal offense is so. You could have gone to Barry could have gone to prison.
that was yeah, but I could have. They could
have gone too. Actually, John Weston told me when I was interviewing him that he was absolutely not at all certain whatsoever that both of you or either of you might go. So it's such an irony when they talk about how pornography tears families apart. Because I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, had you guys gone to jail, that would have just totally destroyed our family. And what a crazy thing, they're willing to throw some families under the bus, or who knows if it even does destroy families. I think that's the jury's out on that as to whether or not that's it.
But how old are you, Rachel? How old are you? How old were you, Rachel, when that happened to your parents?
I think I was 11 or 12 when that must have been happening.
Yeah.
So you see that it could have it's a different thing when you're 11 and 12 than when you're 25 or 26. It's still difficult. But at 11 years old, your parents could have gone to prison. And then what? over some stupid video. This is what people out in the world need to hear. This is where our tax dollars are going, by the way,
By the way,
people.
the videos that were in the in that federal prosecution were all straight.
Yeah, they were straight videos. You weren't even good.
Do you remember the names of the movies that they bought?
Because we had an outside sales.
Yeah, he sold it. Yeah.
Well, I have your FBI file, which lists them there.
Well,
But you know, I'd be curious to know what you think is, well, two different things. You know, what do you guys think? I know, Mom, I had to cut a lot of interesting stuff that you said about Larry Flynt, but it was really awesome that he agreed to do an interview. And I know that when I interviewed him, I went in thinking, well, of course, I've heard about him from you guys for so many years, but I didn't know he knew you. So, and the amount of respect he had for you was really shocking to me. Were you aware of that? I mean, talk about like his contribution a little bit, and like,
well,
were you surprised that he
dealt
remembered
with his family members. So
Wait, say that again?
We dealt with his family members. He had a lot of his family.
His
running
relatives ran his business.
His relative. So there was I forgot his name. One of them was
Teresa
Flynt,
was
and
his daughter.
Teresa Flynt was his daughter, who ran these stores, his hustler store. And I helped her a little bit when they got started. And the guy we dealt with for just the magazines, he was a Flynt. I forgot.
But Flynt was a brilliant businessman.
So
It's because of Flynt that we were able to distribute magazines. The magazines in this country, to this day, are really sold through a very few number of distributors. And so if you want to open a magazine store, you have to buy from these huge distributors. And you pay, like if a magazine costs $1, we pay, what do we pay? Like 40%. We pay 60 cents. And then the 40 cents is the profit that you make in retail. And the wholesaler pays 30 cents. So we make the dime as the wholesaler, and the retailer makes the extra. And Flynt was having trouble with his wholesalers. They held the money back from him, I guess, and they didn't pay him, and they just were giving him a hard time. And he decided to set up his own network, and he was able to do it because his magazine was so popular. And he became a huge distributor of other magazines too, like mainstream magazines, gun magazines, and Soldier of Fortune he sold, and New York Review of Books, all kinds of magazines, he sold them. And we got all those as a distributor. But
so I didn't realize, wait, the New York Review of Books was going through Flynt?
After Flynt initially had Hustler magazine and Chic magazine and Blue Boy, 3 titles. And he was a publisher, and he decided not to distribute through the normal distribution channels like Esquire and Newsweek and Time and Vanity Fair. Everybody distributed through these huge wholesalers, and the wholesalers said, these are the rules. You pay me 30 cents on the dollar, and you pay me, when I tell you, and I pay you for all. Wait, I'm getting confused.
Well, the point is you had to follow their rules.
You had to follow their rules. So Flynt was making these magazines that they really sold a lot of. And they said, we'll pay you in 90 days, or we'll pay you in 120 days. And that was just their rules. And Flynt didn't like their rules. And so he said, I'm going to set up a separate distribution channel. And that's what he did. And it was huge in the magazine business. And over time, not just adult magazines, but all the magazines, many magazines went through him because he had these secondary sources.
He bought out one of the big ones.
Yeah.
He
didn't buy out.
Yeah, he bought it. Well, somebody merged.
No.
But remember, that's how we were able to get Playboy.
And then also because of Flynt, no, Playboy we got by ourselves. Also because of Flynt, more magazines started publishing. and he distributed all the gay magazines, which didn't have as easy a time publishing. The straight magazines, Playboy, Penthouse, and Hustler, were the three big straight magazines. They sold thousands and maybe millions of copies in the United States. And Flynt took Hustler out of that distribution channel. You should interview him.
Yeah.
Well, I did. It's in the movie.
But we need to know more.
Just talking about us. He should talk about what he did.
Yeah.
Magazine distribution.
Well, that's a good point. I think there's actually a lot of untapped historical record stuff. But yeah, hopefully, it's pretty amazing though that he remembered you guys fondly and said that you were his first distributors.
He had an offer out there that if you got in trouble, he would defend you. Mm-hmm. And we never asked anybody to help us. We handled our own defense because our issues were actually with videos. They weren't with magazines. Right. But had somebody been in trouble for, say, selling Hustler magazine, and it's possible that he did defend people in different parts of the country. He's a brilliant businessman.
He is. He's a genius for sure. Yeah, I mean was he publishing Blue Boy? And
published Hustler. And Blue Boy came to him because they didn't have an outlet. And because he was distributing Hustler outside of the regular outlets, we were not in the magazine business until he put his ad in the LA Times and said, would somebody like to sell Hustler magazine? And we said, okay, we'll sell it.
Wow.
And then we said, okay, now you're selling Hustler and Chic. Would you like to sell Blue Boy? And once you show that you're going to pay, you open the doors of your warehouse and they send you whatever they want. Mm-hmm. So if you sell 5,000 Hustlers, over time, he may send you 10,000 Hustlers.
Wow.
Because they don't ever want to run out of the pocket, is what it's called, on the newsstand. They want to keep that full. It's at the time it was a wasteful business. I don't think it's like that anymore.
No, I don't even think magazines are a thing anymore. I mean, I think they're there.
But online, I guess.
I don't.
Markets have sections, but not like they used to.
Not like it used to be.
So, do you think sort of Larry Flynt kind of was an early champion then of these gay publications? Because what would they have done if they didn't find him?
He was a champion. He was a good businessman, and he saw an opportunity.
Well, I think he did like we did.
He's exactly like you. Exactly.
Set up.
Yeah.
And you can always distribute something else.
Yeah.
And these guys come to him and say, hey, we got this product. You want it? Sure. Why not? The same people like us could handle that. So he would just tell us, hey, we got these good gay magazines. You want them? And by then we had Circus of Books was one of my accounts. And I knew it was a gay store. So I did take it. And I said, yeah, I'll take it. And sure enough, when I got there, they just flew out the truck. Just like straight magazines.
Yeah,
by the way, Circus of Books was, it was about 50-50 straight and gay. Oh. It was not just a gay store.
Right.
But gay material also bought New York Review of Books or New York Times or something. They didn't just buy adult material.
Yeah, they would bring a stack of regular magazines, put it on the counter, and then go buy some adult stuff.
Yeah,
and bring it all up together.
Right. That's the brilliant part of your business, though. Actually, I don't know if you did that on purpose.
We didn't do any of it.
Because that's brilliant. Because, of course, maybe they want to just buy a New York Times, or maybe they want to buy a candy bar and, some sex toys. So actually, that's actually very smart on a business level.
But that wasn't our idea. It was the old owner.
Right. But you kept that idea. So you kept it. Yeah, you didn't change the model of it. So do you remember what your top selling gay magazine was at the time? Was there a top selling?
It became Honcho.
Honcho.
Mavidi was a publisher.
And there was more like them. There was they kept making more titles.
Yeah.
We had a ton of stock was on.
In Touch, that
Oh,
came
In
from
Touch.
somebody else.
And then Europeans, there's a whole bunch of European companies were sending
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
There were a
And,
lot of gay magazines.
and you also had signings in your shop with
Yeah.
like porn stars, like what's his name? Jeff Stryker.
Artists, Stryker, but
You had
Finland.
Tom
Tom of Finland.
And,
Wow, you had Tom of Finland at your shop.
Isherwood.
and the poet.
That was at the Annex.
Well,
Allen Ginsberg.
Yeah.
That
And
was
did a lot of people show up for those signings?
not for him.
No, but what about for Tom of Finland?
Off night, or maybe it was someplace else.
What about Tom of Finland? Did a lot of people show up?
Huge,
That was-
yeah.
And Jeff Stryker, did Jeff Stryker bring in a lot of people?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Candy
Well,
samples.
Well,
you
in the
had?
straight, not
Yeah.
another woman like Candy.
I thought you had
No.
candy samples.
Well,
Was
if you
there?
remember, well, I don't think it was a Swiss. She was from Switzerland, a Swiss actress. Who,
Oh,
I don't know if you heard of Candy Samples, but she was very
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh
Woman
yeah, this other
resembled her.
woman. Yeah.
and she was very popular. And she could speak like 4 languages. Customers would come in and she'd sign their autograph.
But
She'd
she
talk in
charged
other
for them to
languages.
take pictures of hers. I
Well,
think.
that's smart. That's business. That's all business.
We never knew what we
They
were
had
doing.
fan clubs. Remember, it was
Yeah.
fan clubs.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would be in her fan club.
Yeah.
Were there many straight porn stars, or is really?
Oh, we had the guy whose wife cut him off. You know,
Oh,
Who?
Lorena Bobbitt.
That's it, Bobbitt. He,
I didn't go to those things.
yeah, he had a lot of people. A lot of people came to him.
Hilarious.
He was not a smart guy. You know.
So then from your bookstore, is that when you decided to create your production company Video 10, or was that just sort of something
Somebody
you,
told us,
Someone came to us.
and
someone came to you?
said, "Would you like to distribute?"
They knew we were in the magazine distribution.
Oh.
They said, "Would you like to distribute videos?" So same thing. We knew how to do it.
Uh-huh.
Well, we didn't know anything. They said, "If you do it, you hire a salesman." And
Well, but as far as shipping and all that, we
Yeah.
knew how to do that.
the only thing we were really could count on is we paid our bills.
Right.
We played by the rules.
Right. You treated it like a business. And so myself being in the adult business, that's unheard of. Even I deal with people who don't pay their bills for some reason. I don't really know what it is.
We did.
But you treated it like a business. That's why. Yeah. You just always had that straightforward look on it. And I think that's why you created something so successful, because you just treated it as business and nothing. You didn't see all the other stuff going on. You just were forward thinking.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think so. So that's what I learn from you every time I'm around you. You're such great business people. I love it. So, Rachel, do you have any questions for your parents?
Well, yeah, I guess maybe because this is a West Hollywood and Outfest created event. My big thoughts are, some ideas about, what it meant in the city of West Hollywood. What is unique about the city of West Hollywood that people might not know about? I mean, the film has been shown all over the world, like Russia,
Yeah.
Indonesia, places where they don't even, have any idea about the sort of districts that we have here. Like, do you think your store could thrive when it did only because it was in a city like West Hollywood? Like, what about West Hollywood was unique?
Well, West Hollywood at the time that we were there was well known as a gay area. A lot of gay people. There were gay bars. There was it was just
Nightclubs.
yeah.
Nightclubs.
It was known as a welcoming place for gay people.
Just like in the movie where you show that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like that. That's the way
And it
was.
wasn't like that necessarily in other parts of the city, I think. They could go out, people could go out and hold hands together, same-sex couples.
And then you opened another shop in Silver Lake, right?
Right.
And
And a
that
third
was totally different vibe, or not as, I mean, West Hollywood is the gay city. The whole world knows about West Hollywood. So that being said, yeah, I think,
It had it had like a comic section it had there.
yeah.
And it had a much bigger candy section. And then we opened a third store in Sherman Oaks.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know
That
that.
didn't do well.
Yeah, but the West
Very-
Hollywood one is the iconic one, and I think the one everybody talks about, and the one that really the film Rachel just took it to a whole other level, being on Netflix and giving it that exposure. Do people notice you two walking down the street now that you're famous?
Sometimes
That's so cool.
people came up to me with my mask on. Aren't you? In fact, in San Francisco, Mike just the other day, a neighbor of his saw the three of us going up to his house, and said to Micah, "Aren't you a famous star?" Or something like that. And she said, "I'm sure I just saw you." And she said, "Wait a minute, I just saw you last night." It was after she watched the movie. And
Brilliant.
It's so ironic. All of you guys have become more famous than me, as I'm not getting as much as you are.
Your parents are more famous than you, Rachel.
And I'm the one who's always been doing stuff in public.
Yeah. So PFLAG, can we talk a little bit about PFLAG? Yeah, you guys became members of PFLAG, which is so great. And really, that's a big part of the film also that I really love, that part, talking about all of that. And so you guys have been members of PFLAG for how long now?
It's about 20 years.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
We do our meetings now on Zoom.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, that's right. But at least you have the meetings. So
Yeah.
so 20 years, obviously you love but when you first started going there because of your son, right? That's the reason you started going there.
Right. Even though I was in this gay and everything
Mhm.
was gay and everything, I needed to be okay with it within my family. And it was just a wonderful place to do that.
Right.
And I just never stopped being part of that organization. It's a really good organization.
It's a brilliant organization, and it does so many because so many parents suffer not knowing how.
Yeah.
And so, it takes a lot. You two are the most amazing, really, to just embrace your gay child. Is people don't know how to do that. And so that's another thing that's really important about this film. It really gives people, I have seen people write, Rachel, I've even had people say to me, like, it's difficult for me to be okay with my gay child, but seeing how you did that and how you talked about it really puts something in people's heads. Sometimes people just need to see other people do things before they sort of understand, maybe I need to accept my child, because if I don't, and I never see my child again, only because they're gay, so that is a really important message that also came out of that film, Rachel, that acceptance of your child, no matter what, is such an important thing. And to overcome that, mostly Karen, to overcome that really just says a lot about you, and really is a very powerful thing.
Well, not my proudest moment.
It is. You should be very proud of it, honestly, to really overcome something, because it's not easy. I deal with it every day. As you know, I'm an educator and I talk to parents. People have especially trans stuff. People have a really difficult time with their children transitioning or understanding their sexuality. And so I think it's so important to talk about these things today, because there's so much influence now on the internet. And I think, this is a whole other space we could talk about, but just seeing you two accept your child, and how religious part of your life really played a part of that was so difficult for you, but to overcome all of that and now be big champions of PFLAG is just so beautiful. And, I think I just want to say that because it's important to me. And I think for a lot of people to see that.
Well, maybe I'll say what I think I've seen on like the campaign trail of Circus of Books is that people really from all religions. I was just talking to a gay Muslim, and then I've talked to people who are mostly I've spoken to people who are Christian or Catholic, and it's literally the exact same thing. And a lot of people have a more religious parent or just a more conservative parent who wanted a certain thing. And me and Buck have a friend who's his parents were liberal Democrats, as hardcore as you could be politically, but they could not come around to accepting their trans son, and they just never relented and never gave in. They were not religious, they were just conservative. They just didn't like the idea. They were totally transphobic, basically. And so I don't think political party lines and we can say cultural differences, but I think it's very much like the human experience. Why some people are, really drawn to having a hard position of what they expect of their kids. And I think that might be the thing that you have the biggest shift in the film, where you had an expectation for all of us, including me, which I think I was the most defiant one of all three. So I got away with everything and didn't have any big explosive things like Josh, because I just wasn't going to conform ever. But I think a kid like Josh is more normal. He has this sort of like high expectation put on him. And then if it's not all perfect, parents can be very upset. So I heard that from countless people, that they related to Josh in the way he expressed his story and then the way you guys dealt with it. But many people did not come out the other side. They,
that's a shame. That's a real tragedy.
It is a shame.
Have that.
Many people.
Your mother expressed exactly what my mother did, but she never came around.
Well, that's too bad. And that's the purpose of PFLAG, because
that's right.
If we give people the opportunity to come around and we help them.
Well, that's why it's so powerful, because just at least getting them there so that they could be feeling in a space that they're not alone. And that's with a lot of things where you just feel off. Being in a group where you actually get to talk about your child without feeling, as if you're being judged. So, I just have to, again, I think it's just beautiful and amazing. So, Rachel, what was a part of the film? What was your favorite part of the? Do you have a favorite part of the film? Is there something in it?
What I liked a lot was doing the archival work, because a lot of the stories, including like mom's journalism and my dad, doing UCLA, I had vague ideas about. But then when I actually saw the real footage, and we pulled things out that, Mom, you had a reaction to, like seeing Simon Lease, right? And that was somebody you interviewed, and I didn't know that, but he was the prosecutor of, like, why do you roll your eyes like that?
I think kicked her out of his office.
I was a reporter and he was the prosecutor in Cincinnati, and I didn't have a high regard for him. So when you found somebody, a white man, to say the party line about a senator, and you use that guy. I mean, there were lots of people who talked like him, but I thought that was pretty surprising. Why take him?
Well, that was a coincidence. I mean, it was really, there were some things in this that feel like just incredible coincidences that I couldn't even believe. And, actually, one thing that I've been really interested in, it's cool. So people have come out of the woodwork on the internet and said different things here and there. And, Dad, actually, people have come out and said, well, Barry Mason's inventions are actually really important. And somebody on my Facebook wall said he works in dialysis. And he said, Barry actually made some really fundamental components to all dialysis machines. And so it's come about that, there's people who also know about what that was. And I only had sort of a foggy idea of all these different things. And making the film gave me some ability to look at, some of the things you guys had done and, find it really interesting.
So one of the things I noticed in the film was your mom, she doesn't really like to be filmed. So was that difficult following I mean, Barry's super okay about it, but your mom gets a little bit upset. So was that difficult, really putting the film together and trying to get your mom?
Well, on the one hand, as a parent, you're happy to spend time with your kid.
Sure.
But you have this, always in the car, in the kitchen, we're going somewhere. Oh, wait, let me get that on camera. And then she whips out her cell phone or a camera.
I know. Thank God she did, because that's why it's such a successful film, because it's just so naturally done. I mean, the editing is brilliant. Everything.
The editing is very
brilliant. Yeah, it just totally pieces together.
Yeah.
Catherine is your Catherine.
Yeah, I should shout out a few people because, there's Catherine Robson, my editor, who's totally, also not just talented, but hardworking. I mean, it took a really incredible effort to put this film together. And then also when I first started the film and I didn't know what I was doing, Cynthia Childs came in and was an amazing producer and just brought so many pieces to the table. And I was, steering things as best I could, but it was one of those situations where I relied on people with expertise. And I think, again, I got really lucky that I found great people who just knew how to do this. And, you know, in a way, I guess I routed it in the way that felt right to me. And, but, you know, my big learning experience is that films are a collaboration, and that's why they're so difficult. You know, when I was just more of a pure artist, you're all on your own most of the time. But to be a filmmaker, you really have to be collaborative. So that was my big takeaway. And of course, my job was to film as much as I can until Mom told me to turn the camera off, which was all the time.
All the time. It's so brilliant watching.
But I got away with more, but when the crew was there, because you couldn't just shoo them away.
Yeah. Yeah. So what if there's a second film? Then what?
He has enough for 2 more.
Yeah, we'll let her make it about Larry Flynt or John Weston.
Brilliant.
What did you say, Dad? I missed that.
That you have enough footage for 2 more films.
This is true. This is true. So, Rachel, do you remember ever going, like, well, like, do you remember going to the store, to the shop as a youngster? Like, you know, maybe 20, 15, 20.
I mean, no, but what I think I would say about going to the store is that my brothers and I were raised so strict that we weren't really allowed to have candy. And it was just the first thing you saw when you walked into the store. That's what we looked at, is that, wow, there's bubble yum this week, there's lollipops. And that was so exciting. And then, of course, it was trying to figure out how we would get that candy and which one of us would get what. And then the over 18 section, I thought every store had an over 18 section. I really did.
Oh, wow. So you just thought every shop was like your parents' shop.
Well,
of
yeah,
course.
why
Why
wouldn't
wouldn't?
every store have an over 18
Of
section?
course. So the over 18 section was the one with the doors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could only go in there. So how, but how did people go in there? Like, did you check their ID?
No,
Or
you just walked in.
you just walked in?
We're right there. They were, if somebody looked too young, they were supposed
Right.
to check.
There was some,
The old owner had a token, and people had to buy a token for 50
But
cents.
even so, you could walk in. It wasn't
No,
locked.
nobody was watching.
but you had to buy a token.
Right, right.
Oh, that's right. You had to buy a token. I think, Rachel, you found some of the tokens as your
Yeah.
parents were closing the shop, right? You saved some of
Yeah.
those.
And
Yeah,
I
those
gave
are going to
one
be
as a
cool.
present to John Waters because he loved the movie so much.
That's right. Yeah, that's so amazing. So did West Hollywood give your shop a historical landmark?
No.
Is it? No?
They gave us a fancy certificate.
A fancy certificate.
It commended us for running.
Right. Yeah, right on. That's amazing. That's so beautiful. So do you guys have anything else that you want to talk about before I guess we're going to be going soon? So
No, not unless you want to.
No, West Hollywood was a very good
Yeah, they were
city
supportive.
to do business in.
mhm.
And we also own real estate. They're a little harder on landlords, especially now. But
Yeah.
generally, they were pretty supportive of the business community, and we thrived there.
Yeah, you did. And like, really, I'll say it forever, as long as I know you, that shop probably in some level also saved lives. So I'm going to tell you that. I know you're not going to, but for real, people didn't have the things that we take for granted. A lot of things today. You don't understand that. As the LGBT community, we take things for granted. We can go on the internet. We can see other people that look like us. We can hook up with people. There's a lot of things that your shop gave people back in the day when we didn't have the access. Myself as well, as a young gay person, I didn't have any space to go to. And so really, as much as I know you guys always push back on me, I just need to always say
And
it. Because,
everyone.
yeah, you push back.
The guy who was the first mayor of West Hollywood.
Not the first. He was
Yeah.
not the first.
I thought he was.
Alan Viterbi, I think. Was
Okay, well, first or second.
Steve Schulte.
Steve Schulte.
He was on the cover of a Cult
Oh,
magazine.
yeah,
that was-
magazine, so.
yeah.
Since we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to just say one thing, that this event was organized by Outfest in addition to the city of West Hollywood. And they were the people that really allowed this film to have its most amazing screening, I really think, in the entire world. And it's been shown so many places. And I just want to say that when we screened the film at Outfest, it felt like just such a cool, amazing, community event for the whole city of Los Angeles. Didn't you think so, Mom?
Yeah, I thought that was very nice.
There were like 1,500 people or so
I
in
know.
their downtown and you guys came on stage. And, you know, because it's COVID right now, I think of a lot of these films that are amazing films that are going to be coming out and people can't be in that environment. And so this film was really lucky that we got to have, you know, amazing, incredible champions in the space of film festivals. And, you know, we really are lucky. And I think that's worth saying because as I know you didn't think this film was going to go anywhere, Mom, I had thought maybe it would land if I got lucky at the Frame Lines and Outfest. And in the end, it turned out to be that's where the film had a really powerful moment and a huge success. You thought it was going to be when it got into Outfest, I remember you said, well, it'll have like a little tiny screening at the DGA maybe. And then it was the headline opening gala. So it was really awesome. And the city of West Hollywood has been really great. And they wanted to put this.
Well, I just want to say that through PFLAG, we have been community collaborators almost every year on an Outfest film. And it's called Flight. There's a film about the flight that crashed in Pennsylvania.
With You?
Huh?
Wasn't it called With You?
No, With You was another one we saw. We have seen some amazing films at Outfest. And this I think it's Flight 92. I just see now that it's on one of the big platforms. But whenever, and we are often the people who show up for the Outfest screening of the community collaboration. And we have seen some amazing films there. And I am glad to see finally that some of them are getting picked up and seen on mainstream platforms, because a lot of films we've seen at Outfest deserve a much bigger audience than just the audience at a film festival, which is a great audience, but the films should go bigger. And I think Outfest chooses its films extremely well.
Well, I agree. And I have to say one final thing too, is that Netflix, you know, taking a chance on this film, which was still a risky film for a platform that's so mainstream, really, and the film doing as well as it has, is a really big, powerful message for all the other LGBT films out there, that you're not necessarily going to be sidelined and put into a little niche category and just shown in the one archives of the world and maybe Outfest of the world, which was what I had thought this might, you know, happen to this film. And that there's actually an interest and a demand for films that, you know, people might have only a few years ago thought were relegated to a little tiny, you know, LGBT space. And that's becoming our mainstream. So it's a really great thing for other movies that this film, Circus of Books, has done so well. So I think with that, we can probably wrap up the show. And yeah, well, first I'll just say, Buck, thank you so much for being our moderator here.
No, I love it. I love you, and I love your family, and I love being a part of it. And the book and the everything. And the film is really a game changer. It is. It really, what your mom said is important. These kind of films the world need to see them. And so it is a game changer. And I really just love all of you. I'm just really proud of all of you. It's great.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks West Hollywood and Outfest for having us. And okay. Thanks Mom and Dad. Bye.
Bye.